What's going on, family? Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Part 2 of the City of Brotherly Love, Philadelphia. Some of the greatest venues and fighters of all times. Now, the Blue Horizon was in North Philly, and you had fights beyond fights. Bob Montgomery, Willie the Worm Monroe, Joe Frazier, Bernard the Executioner Hopkins, Kevin Howard, and Bobby Poncho, Bobby Boogaloo Watts, and Stanley Kitten Haywood. Gernard Sugar Hart, he would fight at the Convention Hall. Stanley Kitten Haywood would fight at the Blue Horizon. Gypsy Joe Harris and Bobby Green. Billy Fox and James Schuler. Curtis the Hatchet Man Shepherd. Terrible Tim Witherspoon. Midget Wargast and Earl Hargrove. Mark McDowell. Lou Tendler. Joey Giardello. Mike Tyrone and Everett Hart. Matthew Saad Muhammad. Mike Rossman. Slim Jim Robinson. Buster Drayton. West Philadelphia. He had Robert Bam Bam Hines and Gary Hinton. Al Latour. Just to name a few. Now, the Blue Horizon was built in 1865. It was a residential property. 1314 North Broad Street, 1912. It was converted into a moose lodge. It was used for meetings. 1938, 4 bouts were held at the Moose Hall. 1960, promoter and real estate agent Jimmy Toppy Jr. had purchased the property. It was then renamed the Blue Horizon. It was named after a famous song. It was first called the Toppitz Auditorium. It cost $85,000 to purchase and renovate. Marty Kramer assigned the lease. It became the first house of the promoter. 1971, a former fighter, world lightweight champion, who owned the New York SAC title. His name was Bob Montgomery. He was promoted there. November 3rd, 1963, main event middleweight contender, Georgie Benton, will knock out Chico Carreras of Chester, Pennsylvania. 6 main events, all knockouts. Georgie Benton would be responsible for all 6. 4 main events, 3 knockouts by Lynn Mathis. 3 bouts by Dick Turner. Sugar Baby Smith. Bad Benny Briscoe. January 4th, 1962. 1,100 spectators watched Lynn Mathis face Eddie Austin. 1966, Gypsy Joe Harris versus Johnny Knight. September 30th, 1969, a newspaper writer by the name of J. Russell Peltz had promoted Bad Benny Briscoe. And the other card also featured Eugene Cyclone Hart. It was a professional debut. The 4th professional fighter, Bobby Boogaloo Watts. I remember that very well. It drew a record of 1,606 members in the crowd. The capacity was 3,000 seating. The capacity in 1969, first promoted, 15 shows. September 1969, May 1970, Georgie Benton, Eugene Cyclone Hart, Sammy Gauss 5 times, Willie the Worm Monroe, James Russell Peltz, and the career of Bob the Cat Montgomery began his new promotional gig in 1971. Between the Philadelphia Spectrum and the Blue Horizon, between 1974 and 1981, 32 shows will be broadcast live. 1982, Harold Moore ran 4 shows into 1984. Atlantic City began to take over the shows. June 25th, 1986, USA broadcasts Tuesday night fights. Manuel Burton, Rocky Rodney Moore, Robert Bam Bam Hines, Nate Miller, and Vincent Pettaway will be just a few that will showcase the Blue Horizon. Between 1950, 34,000 residents were African Americans lived in Philadelphia. May 24th, 1943, Henry Armstrong would take on Maxie Shapiro at the Convention Hall. November 19th, 1943, the Bobcat, Bob Montgomery, would take on Bo Jack in their second fight, New York's Madison Square Garden. Bo Jack would represent the city of Philadelphia. November 13th, 1944, Ike Williams would take on Willie Joyce at the arena. The Convention Hall was built in 1931. It would be later named Municipal Auditorium. 1936, 1948, a Democratic National Convention was held there. 1940 to 1948, the Republican National Convention was held there. 1960, the NBA All-Star Game would be held there as well. West 125th, East 115. Now, John Paul II would visit in 1979. Wilt Chamberlain would become the most valuable player. Philadelphia 76ers and the Warriors would have their championship series there. May 11th, 1932, Bobby Gunness and Herman Taylor held their fight in boxing cards. 12,000 fans had witnessed the main event. Tommy Loughran, light heavyweight champion, versus Penn State Steve Hamas. Robinson fought 7 fights there. 1941, he faced and defeated Maurice Servo. 2 bouts, Jose Basora, 10 rounds. George Sugar Costner knocked him out in 1 round. Carl Bobo Olsen knocked him out in 2 rounds. That was their second fight. Joe Giardello lost in 10 rounds, 1963. Ike Williams, 5 main event fights there. He was stopped by Bob Montgomery, but he will also knock out Bob Montgomery. Fuzzy Zivik had 5 main events there. Mike Kaplan and Johnny Walker. Ike Williams versus Bob Montgomery held the largest audience of 14,807 spectators. 1944, Monday night. 1954, Johnny Saxton versus Kid Gavilan. 1941, Joe Louis would take on Gus D'Orazio. 15,425 spectators in the audience. 1959, Sugar Hart versus Charlie Scott. 1962, Georgie Benton would take on Reuben Hurricane Carter, and he would lose to Carter. 1963, Sugar Ray Robinson would lose 10 rounds to Joe Giardello. 1964, Carter versus Giardello. 1965, Smoking Joe Frazier's professional debut. 1982, Jeff Chandler. 1992 would be the last professional debut of any fighter. 2005, the building would be demolished. The Philadelphia Shrine Park, also known as Connie Mack Stadium, 35,000 in the capacity. It would be in North Philly, between 21st and Lehigh Streets. The stadium was built in 1909. Connie Mack, American League, Philadelphia Athletic Club. Only baseball games were held until 1917. The first boxing card from 1909 to 1958. 1904 to 1938. 1929 to 1952. Shrine Park, Philadelphia Ballpark, Municipal Stadium. Now, it was located on 21st Street and Lehigh Avenue, North Philadelphia, 8 blocks away from the Philadelphia Ballpark. 1917, the year lightweight champion, became the lightweight honorable mention. Rocky, Kansas. 6 Cars of the Year. George K.O. Cheney won 6-round newspaper decision over Scotch Wop Johnny Dundee. The rain was sprinkled all over the audiences, 6,000 in the crowd. But Benny Leonard would knock out Johnny Kilbane and 15,000 capacity. Southpaw Lynn Tendler had fought 7 bouts at Shire Park. Main event between 1917 and 1925. The Bobcat Bob Montgomery has 7 bouts between 1944, June 27th, 1927. Benny Ball versus Joe Click. Pete Nebo, Harry Blickman, 1943. And it's 2 of several bouts at Shire Park. Montgomery had faced Ike Williams, 1947 and 1949. Now, Ike Williams was never truly recognized by the city of Philadelphia because Ike Williams was a part of the Philadelphia crime family. And the mayor did not respect Ike Williams for being affiliated with the crime family. So they continue to acknowledge Bob Montgomery as a lightweight champion, although Ike Williams would knock out Bob Montgomery. They didn't show Ike Williams any respect until Ike Williams would get in the ring with Bo Jack in 1948. And he would beat Bo Jack half to death because Bo Jack was respected in the city of brotherly love. 69th and Forum Street. Richie DeBennett Bennett and Bab Benny Briscoe. 10 rounds. January 24th, 1980. Olympia Gym. Joe Frazier's Gym. Clover Lane. Reddish. Eastside Gym. Mickey McAvoy's Gym. Philadelphia Jack O'Brien's Gym. Joe Hand's Boxing Club. Hard Rock Gym. And Philadelphia Boxing Club would be the venues that these great fighters would prepare their fights in. Boxing has always been second nature to Philadelphia fighters. Philadelphia was a place where you had 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And if you can make it in Philadelphia, as they say in New York, you can make it anywhere. It's a pleasure of reviewing and revisiting the fights and fighters in the city of brotherly love. I've been in many of those venues, although they were closed down, many of them. But I sat in the soils of where those great fighters would train. But you had a lot of venues that were still open, a lot of gyms that were still available. I've been to the Blue Horizon, the Philadelphia Spectrum, many, many times. I've been through most of the gyms there, met great fighters such as Bob Montgomery, Bobby Green, Willie Ruddish, Slim Jim Robinson, Bowie Fisher, Brother Nassim. You had so many of them there. And I'll never forget those days. From 13 years old up, Philadelphia has been almost a second home. And I've seen so many of them. Bad Benny Briscoe. Matthew Saad Muhammad. Georgie Benton. I'm just at awe as I look back of the men that I met there. Bob Montgomery and Gil Turner, Joe Frazier, Gypsy Joe Harris. Remember when he had his 4th professional fight? You see these guys train there. I'm Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. All great fights and all great fighters would never be forgotten on my channel. Shout out to Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. This is part 2. Hope you enjoyed part 1. See you in the next video. Shout out to my sister Lala D. My brother Stormy B, man. Peace. R.I.P. to my brother Coach Sugar Anderson.